Blood's coming down. Every wall in this apartment, in this room, and the ceiling has blood on it. This was the exclamation mark on where my life had gone from being a good kid to this far from dying.
You have a lot of high IQ people who become marginal members of society. And so what is the one psychological test that correlates with success in life?
And sometimes they would laugh, look at him. He's bathing in the bathroom upstairs on the 21st floor. He sleeps on the floor. Him and two other dreamers up there. Look at him.
This guy had to be this big, hovered over me with a gun in my face, and when he did, my reaction was to hit him with the plate in the face. Thing breaks and he becomes like a monster. Blood's coming down. Every wall in this apartment, in this room, and the ceiling has blood on it. This was the exclamation mark on where my life had gone from being a good kid to this far from dying. I spent 3 days in the hospital, and I'm like, I'm done. No more drugs. I'm done using drugs, okay? Guess what happens? I'm using drugs 15 minutes later, 10 times a day in the hospital. My mom says to me, you're no longer welcome in my home. You're no longer welcome in my business. I don't want to see you anymore. 24 hours later, I was in a treatment center because my mom had the courage to say, enough is enough. I'm done. I go to this treatment center. I'm there 30 days. For the first 30 days in 7, 8, 9 years, I don't use drugs. And before I leave, the counselor grabs me and the counselor says to me, look, dude, I'll see you back here. Probably, if you don't die, I'll see you back here. And I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? I'm not coming back here. And he's like, oh no, you're coming back. All you're ever gonna be is a drug addict. You need to give up all the ideas of writing books, speaking to audiences, being rich. I always wanted to be rich. I wanted financially to be rich my whole life. I wanted to be my dad. I wanted to be the guy that could take care of his family. They said, you need to give up all those ideas and settle for one thing, not using drugs again. 25 years old, moved back into my mom's house. Tell my mom, let me live back in the house. I'm coming back, I'm not using drugs, and I'm gonna rebuild my life. From that day on at 25, I made some commitments. Number one was, I cannot afford free time. Every time I had free time, I got in trouble. So I knew I had to, one, eliminate the old bad friends. Two, I had to keep all free time busy. And I said, what are you good at, Grant? And I'm like, what are you good at? What are you really good at? And I'm like, I'm good at going all the way. Because even with the drugs, I was an all the way kind of guy, right? I need to 10x everything. Like 10 was that number. My dad died when I was 10. I was using drugs 10 times a day. I was trying to quit 10 times a day. I'm like, you got to start liking something, man. And more importantly, you got to get good at something. So I said, I'm going to take the job that I don't like and I'm going to get great at it. It was a sales job that I hated. Every day I would go to work early. I'd stay late. Okay, I was doing 10-hour days, at least 10 hours. If I needed to make one call, I would make 10. If I needed to see one customer, if I thought I needed to see one customer, I would fill it up with 10 customers. Whatever I thought I needed to do, I literally took this drug problem and poured this obsession with destruction into an obsession with, I'm gonna just 10 times everything, keep myself busy. I studied everything, I became a fanatic. Some therapist, some psychiatrist is gonna say, oh, this dude's got ADD. I've already been told that, please. I've had every label that the psychs put in books, I've been labeled that, okay? Look, I never had any of those problems. I had potential that was being unused. So I wake up early, I get a workout in, and I get to the office. When I get to the office, a calendar's laid out, and I need to see every 30 minutes something filled in that calendar. The counselor back in the treatment center said to me, dude, aren't you worried about, because he's seen my success now, and he's like, aren't you worried about burning out? I'm like, dude, you're the burnout, bro. You're the burnout. You're the one that said I was gonna come back. You're the one that said I would never make it. You're the one that said, don't write books. I've written 7 of them, man. I'm not worried about burnout. I am not a candle. Candles burn out. Spiritual beings don't. My message to you is that you're not doing enough, okay? If you could do it once or twice, then you can do it 20 times. Just multiply. And I hear a lot of people say, when is enough enough? Those of you who ask that question, when is enough enough? Maybe you haven't had enough failures. Because if you get disappointed and disgusted enough with your life, you will not ask, when is enough success enough? I want to give people permission to be complete addicts, junkies, obsessed, maniacs, all in freakazoids that do everything 10 times more than you think you need to. And I want to see, how hot can I burn? Okay, how far can I go? How much light can I bring the world? How much positive truth message can I bring this planet? How much more can I do?
When you look at children and you look at all the different theories about what makes successful kids, you realize that almost all the theories are wrong because they haven't been verified. Like, for example, high IQ. You have a lot of high IQ people who become marginal members of society. And so what is the one psychological test that correlates with success in life? And I found out that it's the marshmallow test. You get kids and ask them, do you want a marshmallow now or 2 marshmallows a few hours from now? And the kids that want the marshmallow now tend to be those that want shortcuts, those that don't want to do the hard work. They want the quick kill. They grab that marshmallow. But the other ones say, no, wait a minute. If I wait 2 hours, I can get 2 marshmallows. I can hold out. There's a pot of gold waiting for me. They're not going to take the shortcut. And so you say to yourself, well, that's a test for kids. But then you track them decade by decade by decade. And you find that they are more successful, they have a lower divorce rate, higher income, higher status in society, that don't want that simple payoff now, but are gonna delay gratification into the future. And so I realized that that's the key to success in life, not just science, but in life. Don't take the shortcuts.
But can it be taught?
Well, part of it is your personality that is formed when you're very young, okay? Let's be very clear about that. But I think that, yes, I think that, for example, it turns out that if you do the same thing with poor children and the same thing with middle-class children, it turns out that poor children will, in general, go for the quick kill because they know that things disappear real fast. If there's money in the house, it's gone in the future. If you can show people that there is a pot of gold out there, that yes, you hold out, you go to college, you'll learn the discipline, there's a pot of gold out there. You can learn to appreciate that fact. What we have in the brain that is different from animals is we understand time. We understand the future. My grandparents came to California 100 years ago. But imagine, back then, life expectancy was 49 years of age. I mean, you were born, you had kids, and died. Life was a bitch. Now we have an increased lifespan. We have all the luxury goods. Instead of yelling out the window, which is what my grandparents did to communicate, we have the internet. And so when you look at it the long term, decade for decade, you realize the enormous progress that we've made. We constantly daydream, we scheme, we plot. We constantly think about what could be. Now let's do an experiment. Go home tonight and teach your dog the concept of tomorrow. Try it. Teach your dog the concept of tomorrow, the next week, the next year, and you realize you can't. Animals live in the present, and that's what I think intelligence is. Intelligence is being able to map the future, simulate the future. So if you get an experiment, people with low IQ and high IQ, put them in the same room, and you give them the same job, rob a bank. You'll find out that the low IQ people probably do a much better job of robbing a bank, plotting the bank robbery, than high IQ people who get all messed up with legal implications and stuff like that. The point is that you can have some very smart robbers because they see the future. And that's what we humans do that animals cannot. We constantly daydream. We constantly create worlds that don't exist. And to me, that's what intelligence is. Some people ask me, well, what is the meaning of life then? And I say to myself that if somebody gives you from up high the meaning of life, it's too easy. I mean, is that all? My attitude is that it's self-discovery. We have to reinvent ourselves, that we have to recreate ourselves, that the meaning of life is rediscovery.
I was feeling within myself that I was a failure, that I'm slower than most people. And sometimes they would laugh, look at him. He's bathing in the bathroom upstairs on the 21st floor. He sleeps on the floor. Him and 2 other dreamers up there. Look at him.
That impacted me to such an extent that compromised my ability to think clearly. And I was at an event, Bob Proctor and another speaker came up to speak. And this guy stopped in the middle of his presentation and I felt he was talking to me. He said, there's someone here. He said, you know who you are. He said, I do this because I love it. I like to make a lot of money. But you love to help people and you got the gift. But you've convinced yourself you can. It's not what you don't have. It's what you think you need that keeps you from coming up here, holding this mic, changing lives like you're born to do. I mean, so I'm gonna say this and I'm not saying anything else. I'm standing in your dream. And the reason I'm standing up here holding this microphone and you're sitting out there like a wimp, because I represent the thoughts you have rejected for yourself. I heard that, I said, oh God, he's talking to me. I got up, I ran outside to a payphone, I called Mike Williams, I said, Mike! He said, Brownie, what's wrong? I said, listen to me, Mike. Mike, are you listening to me? He said, yes. I said, I'm not rejecting myself anymore. Do you hear me? Mike, he said, Brownie, take it easy. Mike, listen to me. I'm not rejecting myself anymore. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. It's been keeping me up at night. Then this guy said, I'm rejecting myself. I'm stopping now. Will you come help me? He says, yes, Brownie. You're as good as those guys, man. This is your calling, man. This is you. He ignited something in my heart. He's my mentor for 49 years. When I came out to California and they had my name up in lights and a giant-sized picture of me, I had this overwhelming feeling, oh my God, I've made it. And Mike Williams, he was walking behind me and he said, Brownie, this is not the mountaintop.
No one could have convinced me that after just over 6 years, I would have my own book entitled Live Your Dreams. Just over 6 years, I would have 5 specials on public television. I will now have my own talk show that will premiere on Monday, Labor Day. I'm saying to you, your dream is possible.
So I learned the value of relationship capital, having relationships with people that you can learn from. Practice OQP, only quality people. Muhammad Ali said, I'm the greatest, but he never won a championship without Angelo Dundee. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. However, every championship, Phil Jackson was there. Sometimes you need to believe in somebody's belief in you until your belief kicks in. That he believed in me when I was struggling. And I believe that all of us need mentors because you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. You need someone with a trained eye, someone who can lead you to a place within yourself that you can never go by yourself. You have the potential for greatness. You have the ability to do more than you can ever begin to imagine. Doesn't matter what they're saying about you. Doesn't matter because you failed this test. Doesn't matter because you're not good in math. That you can't do calculus, algebra. Those things don't define you. You're greater than you think you are.
Practice the principle of OQP, only quality people. It's necessary that you get the losers out of your life.
At 29, walking away from data processing, I was terrified. But this made me very hungry, literally.